Welcome to Red V TV, supported by Chapel House Cars for the 2025 season. And with 28 days to go, 4 weeks, see that? Four fingers and a thumb. I'm not from Wigan. Um, it's, it's the turn of our number 28, Kevin.
And that this season is Will Roberts.
Will Roberts, then, Kev. Another talent that's come from Ryland Sharks. They're supplying quite a few, aren't they?
They
Um,
are.
Halfback, played for the under 16s for a couple of years, as you obviously do before you go to the under 18s.
This one starts well.
And then he showed his talent at reserve level. 11 tries and 6 appearances in 2023 for the academy. He's been out on dual reg before to Swinton before suffering a knee injury. Um, Got back last season, played a little bit for the reserves, played a little bit more dual reg with Swinton, then went to Rochdale Hornets, and he's got a 1 year extension. Someone who we thought was going to be next cab off the rank for a chance with the first team, but unfortunately injuries have hampered his development. And George Whitby, who we'll discuss tomorrow, jumped over him a little bit.
Yeah, big year for Will this one. He needs to get out on the pitch, and when he's out there, stamp his authority on games because it does look like George has leapfrogged him. And this 1 year extension is almost listen, this is where you've got to show us that you belong in this squad. Well, you can say that for everyone, but just because he's been out a little bit with Swinton, he's been out at Rochdale. I know he's had his injury problems as well, but this is a big contract really for Will and a big year for him.
Yeah, it strikes me a bit like Matty Foster.
Yeah,
We,
yeah,
we when we extended his contracts when he had injuries and hoped he'd come through, but he never really got his opportunity. I think it's going to be really hard for Will to get game time this season with the first team. I think it's going to be dual reg again. I just don't see him getting appearances in. And I don't want to
and
sound harsh there, but I think it's going
no,
to take a lengthy injury list for his turn to come around.
and I think as I say, I think he's got to go out there and really be a dominant half. So when he does get game time, whether that's going out on loan or dual reg or whatever, he's got to be dominant. He's got to run games. It's a big ask for someone so young, but he's got to go and do that because otherwise, yeah, being a good tiller in your team is absolutely fine. But if you're being overtaken by other players, it does make it more difficult to then kind of re-jump past them. Um, it, he's got every chance if he gives himself that of having a good rugby career. As you say, though, I do find it hard to see where the appearances will come from because I'm not professing to be an expert on Will or when we mention him, George tomorrow as well. I've not really seen too much of the lads play, but I was almost expecting when we had the injury problems this season and George got his nod. In fact, I asked the group that we're in, why not Will Roberts? Why are people picking George Whitby? And I didn't get too many answers. I got a couple of good answers where they're just like, I've seen a little bit of him. I think that George is a little bit further ahead in his kicking game, whereas Will's probably a little bit further ahead in his development, and it might suit George a little bit more.
See, is he a lot further ahead? Because obviously, when
Not
he
a little bit,
when he came
a
back from
little,
injury last season,
yeah,
he got back on the field in April. He'd missed 12 months of rugby pretty much before coming
yeah.
back.
I think it's more the is it more the well, these are the answers that I'm getting through WhatsApp groups that we're in, like telling me what other people have seen. Because as I say, hands up. I've not seen much of Will Roberts play. I've not seen much of George Whitby play. And people were saying that it possibly suits George a little bit more just because he's got more of a kicking game. If that's the case, then we need halfbacks who have got a kicking game. As a club, I don't feel like we've seen the best of a lot of kicking games. Whether that's down to coaching, whether it's down to players, not entirely sure. But we need that dominant halfback who will kick and will run a game and will kind of tell forwards where they're running, tell people when they're getting the ball, be that boss. It's what Will Roberts needs to do. But as you say, I think the fact that he's been overtaken by George Whitby, it's going to take a good, real good effort by him to string any type of run together in the first team.
At reserve level this year, do you have a halfback combination of George Whitby and Will Roberts?
Uh, Possibly so. I think if Harry Robertson isn't knocking about the first team and he's playing a bit of reserves rather than going out on dual reg, that's probably your 167, unless there's someone else coming through who they're going to have a look at. Would it suit Will going back out to somewhere like Rochdale and actually playing against week in, week out, playing against fellas who want to knock his block off? It might suit him a lot more in his development and in his quest to get into the Saints first team or have a long and successful rugby league career. Because I don't necessarily think playing, what is it, like every other week or a handful of times for the reserves is going to be enough for Will to force his way into the Saints first team.
Yeah, there's another decent question I've just been thinking about. Is it harder for halves to develop outside of the first team Super League level? There you go. There's a question we'll ask at some point. Right, 4 weeks to
Who are we
go.
asking?
Our audience.
Yes, good one.
Don't,
That is the one for the audience. Yeah.
yeah. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you tomorrow for a precocious talent, Kevin. Catch you soon.